Joining us now is Dave Dulio, professor of political science and also the director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. Dave, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, Tyler. Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you as well. So big news in the state of Michigan politically this week. Hasn't really been election related or especially related to Governor Whitmer versus her challenger on the Republican side, Tudor Dixon. It comes from our state Supreme Court as Chief Justice Bridget McCormack has announced she'll be stepping down in November and will be taking over a job with an organization out of New York after the beginning of the year. Being that her term did not expire until 2024, there is currently a Democratic governor, and the end of her term will be at a point where the end of her tenure, with that resignation being in November, will be right around the time of the election. That gives Governor Whitmer a chance to name an appointee to take over that position. How important was the timing on this in Bridget McCormack's decision to step down, being that, of course, it's a nonpartisan position, but she was nominated by a Democratic governor?
Well, it's, I think the dynamics of this election cycle make this a little different in terms of the importance of it, right? I mean, it's important in that Governor Whitmer will make the appointment to fill that seat, which will keep it a 4-3 Democratic advantage. However, I think it can't go unnoticed that Governor Whitmer is in a really strong position to be reelected. So had this dragged on into next year and Governor Whitmer wins, as I think many expect her to, it wouldn't have been that big a deal. You raise an interesting point there about it being nonpartisan. When Supreme Court justices are elected on the ballot, which there were 2 seats up this year, they will be nonpartisan. But Michigan has this strange system where the only way we can get justices on the ballot or get folks on the ballot to be justices is through a partisan process, right? Both the Democrats and the Republicans at their state party conventions this year nominated people to fill those ballot slots. So it's a very strange, let's maybe be fair, we'll call it unique way that we do it here in Michigan.
We're joined by Dave Dulio from Oakland University's School of Political Science, and also he is the Center for Civic Engagement's director at Oakland University. More information on all this can be found at oakland.edu, oakland.edu, for more information on everything happening at Oakland University. Also, here in the state of Michigan, other big news we had the last time we spoke talked about the ballot proposal 3, that would affect abortion rights here in the state of Michigan. The potential that because of the wording of that bill and of course the state board of canvassers mostly unprecedented 2-2 tie on whether or not to send that to the ballot in November, whether or not it would actually get on the ballot. It did end up making it there. The Supreme Court of the state of Michigan, as we just mentioned, the importance of that board, of that court, did end up saying it was eligible for this November's election. And we're seeing so much across politics, not only in Michigan, but across the U.S., that this abortion issue is continuing to grow in its importance. We just heard that Senator Lindsey Graham is proposing or has introduced a bill that would ban abortion nationally after 15 weeks. Previously, he had said in terms of repealing Roe versus Wade that he preferred this to be a states' rights issue. Now, politics, it's pretty commonplace in politics for politicians to change their opinions, especially when it's convenient for them and their party. How much of a staple is this going to be in making those decisions for mostly those independent voters or those moderate voters on one party versus the next, of which direction they go in this election?
Yeah, I think that it remains to be seen. I think that I think a lot of folks tend to think about this, or I shouldn't say that. It's where this issue is described to us as a yes or no issue, right? And I think for a lot of Americans, it's more subtle and more complicated than that, And to that point, if you ask people in Michigan, a strong majority will say that they favor abortion rights. But at the same time, a strong majority will say that they want to have restrictions and have, for instance, parental notification laws, right? I think you're going to see that issue be hotly debated over the next couple of months until Election Day, if and when the pro-life side, the opponents of this ballot measure, come in and start to spend to try to convince people to go out and vote against it. I think the bill in the Senate that you mentioned from Lindsey Graham is going nowhere fast. Not only do Republicans not have the votes to pass it in the U.S. House, but even Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell doesn't seem too interested in whipping votes for that bill.
Joined by Dave Dulio from Oakland University Center for Civic Engagement. He is also a professor of political science at Oakland University. You can learn more information on oakland.edu and engage with the Center for Civic Engagement at oakland.edu/CCE, oakland.edu/CCE for more information, as well as upcoming events and some controversy at my alma mater this week, as well as the Board of Trustees allegedly had notified President Samuel Stanley that he had until Tuesday of this week, which of course has expired at this point, to submit his resignation or face potentially being fired by the Board of Trustees. And as more information's come out about this, it seems to be a big division within the Board of Trustees, not just on whether or not he should resign or whether or not he should be, it should be discussed that he should be fired or kept in the job, but whether or not there is an issue here at all. How much of a mess is being made of this from that Board of Trustees position, and how does that potentially impact the future of that Board of Trustees and other boards of trustees at the state level?
Boy, that's a stumper for me, Tyler. I'm gonna amend Ronald Reagan's statement that he had about Republicans in primaries, and he said long ago that Republicans should not speak ill against other Republicans, or maybe I'm paraphrasing there. So I'm going to go ahead and say that faculty at one higher ed institution shouldn't speak ill about another higher ed institution. We're all in it trying to row in the same direction.
More information can be found on all that continued controversy and your local news outlets, including CivicCenterTV.com's local news page, where you have updated articles from many different publications throughout the state of Michigan all throughout this week. You can find more info as that story continues to develop. In the meantime, Dave, at the Center for Civic Engagement, a lot of action coming up. We'll have you and others on from the Center for Civic Engagement to go into a little bit more details later on as we approach some of these dates. What are some of the upcoming events and different discussions that the Center for Civic Engagement is going to have coming up that people can participate in this very important election season?
Sure, and I would make one other comment about politics here in Michigan, especially today, Tyler, and that's we do have President Biden coming to the auto show, and he is going to appear with Governor Whitmer. Or I should say Governor Whitmer is going to appear with him. That is maybe unconventional these days in politics, where a Democrat is welcoming the president with his approval rating still languishing in the low 40s. But I think that says something about the strength with which the Whitmer campaign team is approaching these last couple weeks of the campaign. Notable that two members of Congress are not going to be with the president. That's Alyssa Slotkin and Dan Kildee, the two Democrats who are, in fact, in some pretty tight races here in Michigan. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about the Center for Civic Engagement. We've got a busy October coming up. I'll start with the second piece, and I think we're going to have a chance to talk about this maybe in a week or so. But we're going to have on campus something we're calling Civility Day. You and I have talked in these interviews before about the lack of civility in our politics these days. We are partnering with the Civility Project, which is run by Nolan Finley and Stephen Henderson, two of the state's most renowned journalists. And so that's going to be October 25th. We'll just tease that a little bit and come back and talk a bit more details on that, hopefully with Stephen and or Nolan. But coming up in less than a month, we are going to have a virtual event devoted to the controversy around abortion. And we're calling it After Roe, the Constitution, politics, policy, and rights. And we're going to welcome a couple of speakers to talk about that contentious issue. It's going to be a virtual event, but we'll have a Lincoln Douglas style debate between two nationally known speakers. And we're doing this not to try and change anybody's mind, right? We're going to have both sides of this hot button debate represented, but we're not trying to change anybody's mind. That's not our goal. Our goal is to inform on a couple of different levels. And one is to just demonstrate that even on an issue like this, two people can have disagreements and do it respectfully. People can, even on the issue of abortion, right? There can be civility in how people talk to each other and interact. And one of the benefits of that is that we can model that civil behavior and tone that we would like to see, I think, others have out in the community. Number two is we know a lot from Stephen and Nolan's work with the Civility Project that if somebody understands where somebody they disagree with is coming from on an issue, they're more likely to be accepting and tolerant of that position. Not that they're going to change their mind, but they're just going to respect it, right? And sort of move on. So this is going to be a fascinating Lincoln Douglas style debate on October 11th. We'll have, maybe I'll send you all the information over so you can put it up on your website.
More information can be found oakland.edu/CCE. After row is 7 p.m. on October 11th. You can find more information and register for the free event on oakland.edu/CCE, and Civility Day, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Oakland Center at Oakland University. $25 for the general community, and students may attend for free. Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Tyler.